I think we're live. See if you can find the new one. Hi everybody. We're trying this. We're using the GoPro instead of my phone, so it's the first time I've really done this live publicly, and I'm just making sure we got everything set up right. So we're gonna find the comments. Did you find it? Is it there? We're gonna find the comments. We're gonna make sure that you can hear me. Can you hear me? Hannah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, we're gonna give everybody a few minutes here to get joined up. I'm going to click on. We're trying this. We're using the GoPro instead of my phone, so
It's good quality.
of course it's good quality. There's a cell phone tower right there. We're using the hotspot from.
I'm just
It's gonna be an awesome video. Yeah, this is gonna be an awesome video, Al. Yes, it indeed is. Here, you hold this.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a camera lady. How awesome is that? All right. Good afternoon. He's late. Must be in hair and makeup. Yeah, well, we were getting stuff set up, so. Okay. Graduated from MSU 1986. Grew up farming. All right, so here is the plan. We are going to do an agronomy live stream. This is the second in my agronomy live series, and I hope you guys enjoy this. So the first one, we did all the prep work on the computer stuff, right? So now we are going to come out and actually look at a crop. This is much, much more exciting. So what I need to know from you guys, and you got a couple minutes here, but would you rather start with corn or soybeans? Because we're standing in the middle of both here. We can go either way. We're going to do both, but which way you want to start? And what other questions do you have? Let me pull up the comments.
Will this be in your test plot?
Well, we are by the soybean test plot in the same field, but not actually part of the test plot. And then the cornfield is just one next to it. It's not the test plot field because I wanted one that's actually up and growing, and the test plot stuff was just planted last week. So it is not up and growing yet.
Someone says corn.
Corn. Corn, corn, corn. Corn it is. All right, Anna, follow me.
Okay.
All right, so we are in a cornfield here. You can yeah, whatever.
Okay, got it.
This was planted on April 20th. So it would have been our second planting window. It was cold. It stayed cold for a long time after we planted this, okay? So this corn took a long time to come out of the ground. Our stand is not perfect here, but it's not terrible. The hybrid that we have out here is Golden Harvest G10L16, which has been one of my really good ones. But one thing that is very important to know about this hybrid is that it has a flex ear. It does not require high populations, and therefore we don't plant high populations. And a little bit of a reduced stand isn't the end of the world. Look, it's a skull.
Oh.
See it? Jawbone of something.
That's cool. Oh, there's another piece of it over there, in there.
Yeah. Anyway, so right before we started, we came out here and flagged out 1/1000th of an acre, which is how much, Anna?
17.5 feet.
Close. 17 feet 5 inches. That's 1/1000th of an acre in 30-inch rows. So when we count how many plants we have in 1/1000th of an acre, we can multiply that by 1,000 and get a pretty close guess as to what our actual stand is. And the more rows you count, the better your guess, right? So come on over here. Here, I'm gonna take the camera for a second.
Okay.
All right, so I don't know how well you'll be able to hear me with me behind the microphone, but we have plants. So we're starting our flag here, and we're gonna go that way to the other flag. And we can count all these if you want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I know how many is here. Oh, Anna, in the back of the gator, that gray bucket, will you go grab it?
Yeah.
We have 28 plants in that stretch, and all of them are pretty good. This one here is likely a late emerger, but he's there and growing well. If you look at the rows next to it, like this one here, that one's gonna make it, but it really struggled to come up, and it's sort of yellow. That's not great. There was this one here that, same thing. It's a weed. It isn't really gonna do anything, but it did technically make it. So 28,000. Now we planted about 32,000 here, so 28 is not great. It's not horrible, but it's not great. The thing you got to remember is that we planted in a cold cold conditions. It was not wet. It was very dry when we planted, but it was just cold, and it stayed cold for a long time. So it took this stuff a long time to come out of the ground. We then got sort of crusty. It took a while before this stuff got really crusted in, but it did eventually kind of get crusty before it grew and come out of the ground real well. For the most part, I'm pretty happy with this. You know, the stand's a little bit variable, but it's not terrible. So, all right. First thing we were gonna do, you got to be kind of close. I don't like seeing head to toe.
Sorry.
There you go. The first thing we were gonna do is dig where some of our skips are and figure out why those plants did not come up. So that's kind of important. So right here in front of me, we have a gap. See that gap? The rain would have come a week sooner, or well, not a week, but 4 days sooner. It would have saved it. All right, let's look at the next one. This one here was that one that was a little bit late. Clear down here, we've got another one, and I can see it. It's right there. Is he gonna make it? Probably not. You can see how it's all bunched up there, and how they just come through. So it starts to unleaf, you get cells that start bursting, and this one is never going to make it. Okay. All right, there's another one right here. What? Right. Same thing. Got crushed under and couldn't make it. And then right here. And we see the same thing. That one was a lot closer. It might actually still make it, but again, probably a weed at this point. Now what that tells me is that I have 28,000 plants in 1/1000th of an acre. Do you remember what we planted here? I just told you this. I'm not even trying to check comments, but we dropped 32. We found 4 plants that didn't emerge that were all there, just couldn't get through the surface. That tells me that my planter did a fantastic job. We put exactly what we wanted down. There may be a bit of spacing variation, but all there. I don't see any doubles and I don't see any skips. That's awesome. That's the quality of job that our planter does that I talked about in the video that came out this morning. So I'm really happy to see that. All right, next thing we're gonna do, I should have had you grab the other bucket too. We're gonna get a shovel out and actually dig one of these plants up.
Do you wanna answer questions now?
If you got questions, you can hit me with them.
Does stand drive overall yield and profit, and was the planter to blame for a reduced stand?
Well, we just answered the planter issue. So it was not a planter issue. We clearly know that the seed was there. Okay, it was a conditions issue. But does stand drive profit? Well, it drives yield on corn, and I don't have the charts or the numbers to sit here and tell you what each skip cost us or what a double cost us or that kind of stuff. But corn, depending on the hybrid, you're driven by how many kernels you can produce, right? Or how much weight. It's really about weight, but kernels are what matters, and we want to try and produce as many and as heavy a kernels as possible. And so we got to have plants to do that, because every plant is going to put 1 ear on. I mean, in theory, it's possible you can get 2 or even more than that. It's not realistic. You want 1 really good ear on every stalk, and so missing stalks or delayed stalks, that really hurts our yield potential. So yes, that does matter. And now, like here, right? So look down here. So we've got this one that's going to be a late or a non-emerger. This plant and this plant, they're going to get a little bit more sunlight. They're going to get a little bit more water. They're going to get a little bit more nutrients because this one isn't here or wouldn't be there. So they will compensate a little bit. Will they put on a 10% bigger ear each? Maybe. Something like that. I doubt it's 25%, so it's going to compensate some, but it's not totally going to make up that difference. But when we get into August, September, we'll start doing some yield estimates in this video, these live videos, and you'll see how population or harvestable ears plays into that yield component and that yield calculation. So yeah, it's really important. But all right, let's look down here.
Tell them what the stand was and what your target population was.
Yep, so our stand population here is 28,000. That's what we got between the flags. That's 1/1000th of an acre. I dropped 32. We planted 32 with the planter, and we dug up 4 of them that looked like this that were there, and they just didn't come through. So the planter did its job, did a really good job. We're going to focus on this plant right here. This is a pretty good looking corn plant. Just looking at it and seeing what we see for issues or anything. One, it is, I would call that barely a V2 plant. And the way you can tell is to look at leaf collars. So if you gotta look real close here.
Okay.
Yeah, do what you need to do. So right here at the base of this leaf is a leaf collar. In fact, I don't even know that I would call that second leaf collar out. This is more of a V1 corn plant. Looking at the ones next to it, I see the same thing. So we're almost to V2, but not quite. So this is V1, and we're almost looking at V2. Now you see we have 1, 2, 3, really 4 leaves out. A leaf does not count until you can see that collar that goes around it. One other thing to note is that the bottom leaf, leaf number 1, always has a rounded tip. Every leaf past that has a point on it, right? They're all that way. This one is rounded, this one is pointed, this one is pointed. So if you're, right now we know this is leaf number 1. A month from now, when you've got a corn plant that's almost shoulder high, and you're looking at it like, how do I know what the first leaf was when I'm trying to count this stuff? Look for the rounded one. It may be there, it may not. But so that's what we can see above. I do see just a touch of purpling along these leaf edges. So purpling can be a couple of things. It can be either a nutrient deficiency, specifically phosphorus is what causes purple leaves, or it can be a buildup of sugars or some sort of damage that causes a buildup of sugars in the plant. In this case, I think it's actually a little bit of cold weather damage and potentially, so I don't remember what day it was, but one day this week we woke up to about 34 degrees with some patchy frost. It was not a killing frost, not enough to kill these plants off or the foliage, but it was maybe enough to just purple up the edges and cause a little bit of damage there. So I think that's what that was. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and dig this one up so we can look at the root structure and what we can see from there. So I even brought the nice fancy shovel that my mom bought my kids a year ago, and I stole it. I'm gonna do my best to dig this up whole and not rip any roots off. I do have a bucket of water in the gator that we can go wash them off then. So trying to dig around it. I think I just got a root. You can see we've got lots of moisture in our soil underneath, down deep. So we're not dry yet, but we also have no rain in the forecast this week, and it's gonna start turning dry on us, I have a feeling. So yeah, almost got it. All right, so right away here you can start to see all these roots, and there are a lot of them, and they're really reaching out into that soil, which is awesome. Try to break it away nice and gently. Yeah, look at that. Those roots going all the way out the bottom there. There's a lot on there. Oh, this looks really good. I'm happy with the root structure. Okay. All right, so before we go too far here, right there is the seed. See that? And so I need to get this pushed off. We'll have a nip, which is right to it. Somebody's gonna make fun of me and not root. Which is it?
Root.
Either way. That'd be this big one down here. And then from there we have what we call seminal roots. And then I actually see on this plant already at V1 nodal roots. So this is called a mesocotyl. And you measure this distance from the seed to this, where this first node roots come out, and add 3/4 of an inch, and then you know your planting depth. Which this one looks like it was planted shallow. Go to my do this without breaking these.
Okay, well you have to hold the camera.
I have to hold the camera?
You want me to walk? What do you want me to do?
Okay, I'll hold the camera. Take my bucket. All right. You got any questions while we're walking? Corn plant.
Oh, I can hold the camera.
No, it's all right.
What is the difference between 36, 30, and 20-inch rows in population planting and yield?
Good question. I don't think that your population would change a whole lot. I think you increase population the narrower rows you go. I've never planted anything other than 30s, so I have a hard time answering that for sure. I know of very, very few that are doing 36 anymore. That's pretty uncommon. Pretty much everybody is 30-inch or narrower. I think there are a few 36-inch rows out there yet, but the idea with narrower rows is that you capture more sunlight and you give each individual plant a little bit more room. So where we're planting with this hybrid, say it was 32,000 in 30-inch rows. If I was in 20-inch rows, I'm not gonna plant a whole lot more. I might say go to like 34,000. Yeah, open that up. But each plant will be farther apart in the row. And so what that does is give them each one a little bit more of the soil to capture nutrients from. It gives them a little more opportunity to get that sunlight, not be shaded from their neighbors, but you're also gonna have less sunlight hitting the ground because you're covering more of it without the big rows in the middle. So yeah, you hold that. Hold it where we can see here. So I got a little bucket of water, and we're gonna go ahead and try and gently wash these roots and get all of that off so that we can see what we've got here. I am probably breaking some off, but I'm just trying to gently squeeze the dirt and get it to dissolve off of them.
Someone wants to know, what do you have planted in the irrigation field?
Soybeans this year. And whether it gets irrigated or not kind of depends on summer weather. Last time we had soybeans up there, we got white mold, and there was no point in irrigating the soybeans. So I don't know if we will irrigate them or not this year. Kind of depends on a lot of different factors, actually. They are up and look really good though. Like, those beans look fantastic. Okay.
Do you, as a salesman, have access to data such as what a variety can yield per 1,000 population?
Yes. So I told you that this hybrid is sort of more of a flex hybrid, that that we don't have to plant it super thick, and we don't plant it super thick. That's something that I have recommendations from Golden Harvest. They have a calculator on their website that allows me to look up what each hybrid needs to be planted for different yield environments. Okay, can we see here? All right, so here is our V1 corn plant. Clearly there's no leaf collar on that second leaf, so definitely we are at V1 stage. There is our seed. You can see the shoot on this one came out sideways and then turned and went up towards the surface. Right here, this root that comes down and goes this way is our radical root, and you can see it's got some branching. There is, or was at least, some fine root hairs on there. I may have broke most of them off by now, but they were there. They actually look really good. I am quite happy with the way that those roots look. And then we have this long root and these ones right here. These are our seminal roots coming out of the kind of the top of the seed there. And the plant is actually still gaining a lot of its nutrients from the seed, which is a little soft at this point. So it's using up the starches, the energy reserves that it had in there, but it's still living off of that until we get to really V5, and then it's fully transitioned over to living off the roots. But it is drawing from both of these root systems. And then you can see here we have our first set of nodal roots, and those are coming out of the first node on the plant, which is still below ground. The growing point is still well below ground. There will be about 4 nodes stacked right on top of each other here where these roots are coming out. So there'll actually be like 4 sets of these that come out right from the same spot. And then you'll get, I believe, like a 3/4 inch gap, and you'll get the 5th node. And we'll talk about that later in the summer. But when you split a more mature stalk sideways, or split the stalk later, you can tell where those nodes all stack up, and then there's a small gap, and then you can start counting from there. So, but for the most part, nice, good, healthy root system. You can see that we actually have more length or growth underground than we do above ground, and that's what one of the advantages to this early planting is, in my mind. you get a lot of stuff happening below the surface that you don't necessarily see, and it keeps those plants progressing and surviving. And like, the deeper these roots go, the better. And look at, you know, we're putting fertilizer right here, right, with our in furrow, and then we're putting fertilizer right here, right where those lateral or seminal roots are going. And that's why I really like the starter system on our planter. So, all right, do we have any more questions on corn? Anna, what do we got?
What V stage do brace roots start?
Well, so these nodal roots would actually be what you would consider brace roots, or the same thing as brace roots, right? So you're thinking of brace roots as the ones coming out of the stalk, coming down above the soil surface. Well, those are nodal roots. They're the same thing. They just start above because the nodes have at that point become above the soil surface. So these roots right here coming out the top, those are the first nodal roots. There'll be 2, 3, and 4, I believe. I'm not an agronomist, so don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And then you'll get number 5 will still be below ground, and then from 6, 7, and 8 will likely come from above ground. And keep in mind, the node kind of matches where that leaf collar attaches. And this is much easier to show in more mature corn, but when I start talking about this being a V1 plant, well, that V1 leaf actually is attaching right there where those roots are coming out. When we get up to a V8 corn, that corn's going to be, you know, this tall, shoulder high on me, or maybe not quite, but those leaves actually are still attaching way down at the bottom of that plant. It's just that they grow up and out, and so it gives them more of a tall look to it. But the actual 8th node probably only sits, well, 8 might be getting up there, but a lot of those nodes, you know, number 6 is going to be just above the soil surface. 7 is going to be maybe 3 or 4 inches above that. 8 maybe 3 to 6 inches above that would be my guess. So, what else?
Is there still lots of moisture in the ground?
Yep, there is. We dug a little bit there. We can dig some more here when we go into the bean field. We had a little bit of rain yesterday morning, about 1/4 inch to 3/10, and it's dried off on top, but it definitely is still plenty of moisture underneath. Now, there's no rain in the forecast. It is going to be 70 to 80 degrees and sunny all week. It's beautiful, perfect growing conditions. Our crops are going to change tremendously this week, but it's also going to start drying out, and we're going to start hurting by the end of the week if we don't have some rain in the forecast.
I don't know if you'll know this, but what is the energy equivalent inside a kernel of corn compared to the nutrients in fertilizer?
Ooh, good question. I don't know that, and it's going to change depending on seed size. A bigger kernel is going to have more energy reserves than a small seed. Some people, I don't tend to get too picky about seed size, but some farmers really pay attention to their seed size for a couple of reasons. One, certain planters can plant certain seed sizes better than others. And 2, some people really want large seed because they want that stored up energy reserves for exactly what we just did here, where you're planting into cold soils that it's going to take a long time to come up. This plant can't do any photosynthesis before it comes out of the ground. It is totally 100% living off of that seed and any little bit of water and nutrients that the roots can bring in, but it can't produce any energy, right? It can bring nutrients in, it can't do anything with them until you can start doing some photosynthesis and producing sugars for it to live on. That's all coming, all of its energy reserves are out of the seed. And so, you know, the bigger the seed, the more energy reserves it's got, the longer it's going to push and wait to get to that surface. Let's walk out into the beans while you're asking me the next question. Bring me my bucket, please.
How mature does corn have to be before you start applying anhydrous?
Yeah, it can vary. I mean, some people play anhydrous on pre-plant. Some do it even in the fall. We do not do that. Ours is all side dress. The biggest limiting factor is that you don't want to cover the corn up. Once the corn is emerged like that, the worst thing you can do is throw more dirt on it. That's a problem, because then again, it can't do photosynthesis. So our applicator, our John Deere applicator with a disc style opener or the boot instead of a knife, it's pretty low disturbance. I can go into really small corn. I could side dress that if I really wanted to. We're probably looking at starting by the end of the week, I would guess. I was contemplating holding off and waiting because I've got 30 pounds of nitrogen out there with the planter. I don't need it yet. That corn's using nitrogen, but not that much. I need it from V10 through grain fill. And so the later I can get the nitrogen out there, the more of it'll still be available. Nitrogen is mobile, like we've talked about in the past. So if we had a big rain event, first part of June, the end of May here, we could potentially lose some nitrogen if it was already all out there. I don't want that to happen. That said, anhydrous does take some time to convert into a leachable form. And at this point in our soils with our CECs, we're probably okay. And so the smaller the corn is, the less damage you're gonna do. Because I can run over that corn, and I'm not gonna say I won't damage it, but it will cover, it'll come back. Once the growing point is out of the ground, past V5, you run it over, you actually snap the stalks off, and that corn is dead. It's not coming back from it, so. All right. Do another one, or you wanna, we got time to do some beans.
That's
Beans. So, we're in a of 30 in-road soybeans, okay? So essentially we're doing the same thing in the last one with a stand count. We've got flags. Can you show them the flags? Can you see the flags?
Sorry.
And I could go through here and count all of these. I did not yet because there's a lot of them. Maybe you should.
No.
That's all right. Okay. Let's come here a little closer. And you can see we've got a lot. Our stand is really good. We don't have any big gaps. We don't have any real issues. Nothing that I'm concerned about. We dropped, I think, 140,000 in our bean plot here. That was our target population. I would guess, just looking at it, and I did not count, I would guess we've got maybe 120. It looks really good on the emergence side. I'm pretty happy with it. Maybe only 100. I don't know, but there's a bunch. It's not. We have no stand problems here, and you can look down the rows and see them really well. They're just gonna get better and better as they go here. They look really nice. Oh boy, we've got visitors coming. All right, so some soybean seedlings and what we've got here. Now, corn, the corn that we just looked at is a monocot, right? Monocot. It is a single piece seed, I guess. Is that the right? How do you just define monocot? Because a dicot, the seed is in two halves. That's how I would define it. So.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Makes sense?
All
one seed. Okay, so it has a shoot or a germ that comes out of the seed and goes towards the surface. That's the shoot on the corn plant that we looked at. Soybeans are a dicot, meaning that they have two halves of the soybean. The actual seed is going to grow out of the ground, push up through the soil surface, and form the first leaves. They're not really leaves, they're cotyledons, but they are the part that is going to first do some photosynthesis and provide energy to that growing plant. So as we look at these here, you'll see on the bottom, like this one here is a little bit later to emerge, and that one has just got the cotyledons opened up. They're nice and green. Those were the seed. That was what was actually planted in the ground, okay? And then we get these first leaves that come out, and that's what you can see on the rest of these. So these leaves here are our unifoliate leaves. The first set of true leaves that come out on a soybean plant. Hi boys.
Hi.
How are you doing? Were you watching my video? No, you just saw me out here? Yeah. Anyway, these are the first true leaves that come out on a plant, and they are yeah, they're doing the photosynthesis. Now this would not yet be considered a V1 plant because a V1 soybean is the first trifoliate. So you'll see this set of leaves right here, this almost a bud. Those are the first trifoliate. So there's actually 3 leaves that come out together there, okay? And once those are fully expanded, meaning they are no longer touching each other, each one of those trifoliate, each of the 3 leaves has expanded enough to not be touching on the edges, then we consider this a V1 plant. So I don't know what the unifoliate stage is, do you? Because VC would be the cotyledons out. There's got to be another one in there, VU, unifoliate. I don't know. I don't know what that's called.
My notes
Somewhere I've seen that and I can look it up, but anyway. So these look pretty good. Can you guys see that little spot right there? That's some brown spots, some disease, I believe, setting in already, which is not great, but not much I can do about it. I mean, we could spray some fungicide out here, but it seems like a waste this early. A little bit right there even.
Oh.
Huh, I don't know if that shows up on the camera.
Here?
Nope. See that little spot right there?
Oh, I was like, that's just dirt. Well, okay, yeah, you're right.
There's just a few. Now, we want to keep these plants as healthy as possible. We want to keep them growing as best we can. We put good seed treatments on here for just that purpose. Now, they're probably not real effective on leaf diseases, but the seedling diseases and damping off, I don't see, I mean, this one here doesn't have any unifoliates for some reason, whether something stepped on them, they didn't come out of the ground quite right or what, I don't know. Is my seed digger in the bucket? There's a bit of a gap right here. I don't know if we're missing some seeds. Right there's one that's still coming. So right here, this camera keeps shutting off so I can't see what you're looking at. Okay, so he broke off. So that one, it was trying to push its cotyledons up, which I don't even see where they went here, and they snapped off. So that's one of the big issues with soybeans and crusting, is that it has to push that whole seed up through the ground, right? And if you get a crust, the seed gets too big to actually push through, and it can snap them off. That one's still coming. That's the only one I see like that. Other than that, they look really good. They look really good, actually.
Someone asked if the brown spots, they said, is it not herbicide burn?
No, because these were sprayed before they were emerged. We use a pre-emergent herbicide that has to be sprayed before they come out of the ground. So there's no way that speckling is herbicide damage. Good thought, though. I think it's been brown spot, some disease. Anyway, for the most part, they look pretty good. But what I was getting back to with the cotyledons, we want to keep cotyledons on this plant as healthy as long as possible. If they still look like this and they're still green when we're at R3, meaning end of July, 1st of August, we know we're going to have really good beans. Like, that's a telltale sign that our beans are going to be good, is that we kept the cotyledon and the whole plant healthy until R3 time stage, or growth stage, which would be in the reproductive stages when we're starting to form pods and really set pods at that point. So yeah, I'm really happy with the way these look. Let's dig up a bean plant like we did a corn plant. So here, I'll give you this. Can you give me a shovel? Okay, they're a little bit closer together, so we might get two of them at once. We're going to shoot for these right here. Now, corn is defined as having a fibrous root system. Okay, it's going to have multiple roots that go out in different directions, no real tap root. Soybeans have a tap root. Now, corn can have different types of root system, penetrating versus more fibrous, modified, whatever, but they're still fibrous. Beans, like I said, they're more of a tap root. So they're gonna go deep and have one big main root. You can see we had another bean coming out right there, right next to that one. Start breaking this apart. Breaking all the roots off, that's what we're doing. Right after I say there's a tap root.
I was gonna say, doesn't it
look like a tap root? It's growing sideways, that's why. There it is. So you can see some of the root hairs on there. And the branching, there's lots of branching. We like branches. All right, so this is our taproot. It kind of curves, and then it curves, and then it curves, and it probably grew around a clod. But this is the start of that taproot, and it's just going to keep going. You'll notice there's no seed on here like there was on the corn. And why is that? Well, because the seed's up here. It pushed up out of the ground. So there's definitely no seed, but we've got all these roots coming off the main tap and the stem. And those are what do all of our nutrient uptake and water uptake. And they look pretty good. I do not see yet any root nodules forming. That would be a great question to know, when do root nodules start to form or become visible on soybean roots? And I don't know the answer to that. I see some spots that might be them starting, Or it could be cyst nematodes. I don't really know. I'm gonna wash it off here. Wash them off is then they kind of run together.
Are you in the field where the crusting was bad and the seed trench had that big crack in it?
I am not in that field, no. Oh my goodness. Look at the boys.
I don't know if you can see them.
Oh, they can see them.
Okay.
If they hurt themselves, it's their own fault.
They'll be fine.
They'll be fine. Oh, I do have something cool though. All right, so you got our soybean plant here, right? Gotta be in the sun. All right, so we've got our little soybean plant here. Do you see how it's purple right there on the stem? Now in the corn, we just talked about how purple can be a nutrient deficiency or a buildup of sugars or something else. Actually in beans, there's a third thing there. So that purple on the, I think this is called the mesocotyl, right Anna? Hypocotyl? Something, this is something. Anyway, this matches the flower color. So I don't remember what variety we are sitting in right here. I have to look it up. But this variety will have purple flowers on it. Soybeans are generally either purple or white flowers. I don't know if I've ever seen any pink. They have pink soybeans flowers?
I've never seen pink.
I think they're either purple or white. This variety will have purple ones, just based on that. It's not a bad thing. That is not a disease. It's not a nutrient deficiency. That is genetic. Good looking soybean plant right there. Screenshot. I should be keeping these for, in fact, I am keeping these.
Press it.
Huh?
Press it.
I can't on my GoPro. All right, let's pick up our tools.
No, I meant like between pages.
Oh, between pages, I see.
Scrap bucket.
Scrap bucket. Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
You get that bucket. What's up? What's the problem, Brayson? I see you're on the roof. What are you doing up there? Measuring. Excellent. Okay.
Why is your flag too flat?
I was measuring.
Dad, I see that's a good corn.
That is a good corn, and look, here's a good soybean.
I saw another good soybean. I want to
All right, there we go. There's our young corn and soybean plants. We do have some corn that's a little bit farther along than this, but these are the fields that we are in. Good job. All right, what else do you guys want to know? Anna, you got any more questions or anything else we need to answer for people? Get down, Brayson.
Put that in the video.
Put that in the video, he says.
What are some things you can do to prevent white mold?
All right, so white mold. So white mold is caused by a fungus that's in the soil, right? Sclerotia?
Bird poop?
Bird poop, no.
Daddy, do you put it in the
Yeah.
video?
What?
I'm asking you. You're the
Sorry.
you're the fungus expert.
What did you ask
White
me?
mold. What is it? Sclerotia?
Yeah,
Sclerotinia?
sclerotia is in the soil. It overwinters in the soil as sclerotia, which is a fungus.
What's the actual disease?
Syringe? I don't know.
Okay.
No, that's...
Anyway, so white mold is something that affects the plants usually later in the growing season. Essentially, there's a fungus or a disease that lives in the soil, and it makes these little volcano-like spore or
Why do you have water?
what are they called? Mushrooms, fruiting bodies, pustules.
Fruiting bodies, yeah, and then the...
Whatever, they kind of poof spores up into the air. They come out of the soil, and it will get into the flowers on a soybean plant, and it will infect the flowers. And then it will show up the end of July into August, where the stems will have this white mold fungus growing on them. If you split the stems open, it'll have black inside of it, and it basically kills the plant. It can be devastating. There is some fungicides you can spray, but they're expensive, and you got to spray them a lot, and that's not a great option. I have started using a seed treatment called Heads Up that is supposed to help with that, and it helps by actually mimicking the disease, the pathogen, early, so that the plants build up a resistance to it. We'll see if it works. I used it last year and I thought that it did, but didn't have great side-by-side evidence to verify that it did. So used a bunch of it again this year, and we'll see what we see. Some of the other things that would help is air movement. So these 30-inch rows are going to get a lot more air moving down the rows than our 15-inch row beans will. Helps dry out the flowers and the under the canopy. That should help. Lowering your population, creating less dense foliage is what the goal is there. No, we're not playing in the water.
Why
You
is
guys
that
can walk
water there?
because I was using it to wash off the roots. You guys can walk back up to the house if you're gonna mess around.
No.
Okay. Your face
We're
is
gonna
gross.
ride in the back.
Right. So those are the two things that I would say you can really control is row spacing, population, and then I guess seed treatment to help with white mold. So what else you got?
We need to break these up.
I do have right over here a field of 15-inch road beans that was planted a little bit earlier than my plot, I think. We might go take a look at those if you guys want, just to see the difference.
Do we want to break these
Someone wants
rocks?
to know what your herbicide program is, but I
Herbicide.
Okay.
We can talk about that. So on the soybeans this year, we used a pre-emerge herbicide called Tendovo. It is a 3 modes of action. It has metribuzin in it. It has some dual in it, S-metachlor, I think. And it has some first rate, which I don't know the chemical name for first rate. On the corn, we use, and then so on beans, we'll come back and spray them again with either glyphosate, Enlist, maybe some Sequence, which has got a little more dual in it. Whatever we feel that we need. We could use Liberty if necessary, but likely be mostly just glyphosate. On corn, we use a product called Acuron, and we use a full rate of that, a 2.5 quart rate, which gives us single pass pre-emerge season-long control. We may go in with some Roundup and clean up some grass escapes on the edges, but very, very little that we have to go back in on and hit that a second time. And that's a big thing. Why are you doing that, Brayson? I don't like it. You're bending the tape measure. Children's. You should have done it farther. Why? Because you guys are breaking my stuff. Getting dirt everywhere. All right. We're going to go for a walk. Are you going to stay here or are you going to come with me?
Where are you? Why is it
There.
there?
Because I don't want to drive the gator right now.
I can drive.
Okay.
All right. Grayson, you walk with me. Yep, you drive the gator, follow us, and don't run over any corn.
Whoa, how do I do that?
Right between the rows.
How do I do that?
Just do it. What do you mean how you
can
do it?
run over the car.
Go up there to the grass and then turn and go over to that field and go slow and follow me. Deal? Deal.
But you're walking in that.
Yeah, well, you go that way. All right, what else, Anna?
What is the current status of your combine? I know it was in the shop.
Good question. I haven't heard anything about our combine for a while, but we're gonna need it pretty soon. So that's something I can follow up on this week. He's doing fine. Is my wife commenting and freaking out right now?
No,
Oh, okay, good.
not a lot going on in the comment section.
Is anybody watching?
141
All right, that's
people. Someone asked me a personal question that I'm not going to answer.
Good. Don't.
Sorry.
Here. Oh, this.
Okay.
He's doing all right. See, he did just fine. Good job, bud. Okay, you can shut it off right there. Good work.
We're going to this field?
We're going to this field. All right,
I
so
bet there's some more rocks in here that I...
you find them and pick them up.
Come on.
Rocks. He wants rocks. These soybeans were planted, again, I didn't look it up to see what day these were planted, but they're 15-inch rows. Phil planted these. Had to be close to the same time that I was planting the plot, or this corn over here. Around the 20th, 19th, 20th, something like that, maybe the 21st. I don't really remember, to be honest. I looked at this field last week one day and thought, these don't look great. They're here. They look a little better today. I don't know. They're not great, but they are here. I don't think we're gonna have to replant them. So, all right, let's take a look. You always walk off the end rows. Don't look right near the trees along the edge where everybody's driving over it lots. It's not representative. So we come out here, and the first thing you can see, well, we're on a guest row because these two rows are closer together. But these rows are a lot closer together than our 30-inch corn rows or the 30-inch bean rows in the field that we were just in, which means that our beans are spread out a little bit more. Same principle we were talking about with 20-inch row corn applies to beans, where we're giving each one a little bit more space in between them and trying to capture more sunlight. Soybeans, crops, plants in general are just solar panel factories. That's all they are. They have to absorb sunlight and do photosynthesis to turn it into something useful. The more sunlight we can capture, the better our crops are gonna be. And so the 15-inch rows, the narrower rows, canopy quicker, they capture more sunlight, especially here in May, June, and July when it stays light until late. We get long sunshine days now. And that's why early, I don't mind planting 30-inch row soybeans because we have so much sunlight. We've got more time. You know, there's an extra month of that long growing days or long sunshine to capture that sunlight in 30-inch rows when we plant them in April. If it was now or Memorial Day and after, you're running out. You're running out of time. These beans aren't going to canopy before June 21st. If they're in 30-inch rows. My beans planted in April, they're probably going to canopy before June 31st, even in 30-inch rows. And that is the goal. We want full canopy closure by the summer solstice, by the longest day of the year. So,
Hey, you wanted to drop this thing on the floor?
I did not. You can bring it over here and you can measure some beans if you want.
Do you
Well,
always
then we
work
want
bean
it.
ground in the spring and fall? Have you tried just
Dad,
VT
there's
in the
no.
fall?
There's no.
Yeah, just VT in the fall doesn't work for us. We have tried that. That was the goal when we bought that disc, VT disc, was to just work them in the fall. But what I find is our corn stalks are not brittle enough to really break down, and you just don't get a smooth, level, good seed bed at that time. Plus, it's generally wet in the fall here, and so we a lot of times are too wet to do a great job for seed bed prep type stuff then. And so, yeah, we pretty much do work them in the fall and again in the spring. There may be some other tillage tool options for us that would do a better job. Maybe make it a one-pass deal. I don't know. We have no-tilled in the past, and we do no-till occasionally, especially if it's too wet to do the tillage in the fall or in the spring, and we want to just plant them. But I have a field across the road where we left like 2 passes with the disc because we were cleaning up some trees and stuff, and I just went through and planted them, and we didn't VT it, and those beans aren't coming up as good. They struggle a little bit more. So anyway, let's look at these beans here a little bit.
Yellow.
Yeah, that one's yellow. It took a little while to come out of the ground. It'll get better. And so that's what I'm seeing here is these beans are just, they struggled a little bit more to come out of the ground. And I don't know if that's due to the planter, if it's a little bit of soil conditions, if it's the weather right after they got planted or what. But like right here, you can see there's one still coming. Come on, Rylan, stop. Right here, we've got one that's, it's probably gonna make it because of the rain that we had. But it's close. Ooh, so it lost one of its cotyledons, already popped off, but it might still make it. The bean planter is not quite as accurate as the corn planter as far as placement goes with soybeans. I was really impressed with those ExactEmerge row units. There's another one right there. That one was gonna make it. So they're not quite as close together, which also doesn't let them have quite as much pushing power, because when you got a bunch of them right next to each other, they can really pop that crust up. And when they're a little bit more spaced out, I mean, they're half as many basically in each row as what our 30-inch rows were. So that's just kind of the way that the 15-inch rows are, but they'll make up for it with their canopy closure. So not a perfect stand. There's one that totally broke off the cotyledon. You can see both halves of it right there. And we got a little gap, but soybeans can compensate. Like with corn, if you're missing a plant of corn, you're missing an ear and you pretty much lost that yield. Beans, if there's a gap, that plant next to it is really going to bush out and fill in those rows, and it's going to make up for it and compensate. So stand is important, but not as important in beans as it is in corn. As long as we have a stand of, say, 80,000 plus and it's relatively even, we're got 100% of our yield potential. We'll be just fine. So, any more questions, Anna?
Which farm was started first, Berkey or Waldron?
Berkey. That's where my grandpa's place was, where my dad grew up. We have some farms that we've been farming down there since the 20s, 30s. I don't remember what year. 27 or 28, I think my great grandpa bought his home farm that we've been farming at ever since.
Dad?
What, bud?
Is the field that have the passion is the first field that you had at Waldron?
It is. Field by our house and by the farm.
What was the first field that you ever got at Berkey?
I don't know. 6-7, I think. What?
What are those tracks over there?
Cracks?
Tracks.
Tracks. Animal tracks?
Yeah.
Probably deer. But I'd have to go look at them.
See, because they're like this.
Oh. Agronomic questions, I'll try and answer them. How far are we into this? Are we an hour yet?
Yeah, different. Go right there.
Where does it tell you?
Oh, probably on the
51 minutes.
51 minutes. Okay, yeah. So if you got any last minute questions here, we'll go ahead and answer them, and then we're gonna head back up to the house. It is a Sunday evening and I'm hungry. So boys, we're walking. You can hang out there if you want, I don't care. Okay. Anything?
I'm sorry, I'm reading. What is the next big thing for your farm to improve corn and slash soybean yields?
Great question. I mean, I'm trying a lot of foliar stuff this year that we haven't done in the past, or trying to do a better job of tracking all the foliar stuff that we're doing. So I would say that's the big thing this year that we're trying to really push things. I've gotten a question about Y dropping and using nitrogen a little bit on, or using liquid nitrogen on some of our corn instead of anhydrous. I'm not going to replace my anhydrous program, but I do have somebody lined up to do some late season Y drops for me to try and give a little extra nitrogen and really push stuff as we're finishing up, you know, getting towards grain fill and tassel time. So we'll see. Hopefully that pans out, but we will see.
Is it too late for rotary hoe to make any measurable difference?
Yeah, on all these early planted crops, it is way too late. And the rotary hoe, those tracks, yeah, those are deer. Right there. The rotary hoe, I got a lot of comments on that. Look, I hate the rotary hoe. If we're using that, it's too late. We already messed up, so, or we're not necessarily messed up, but it's just in trouble. No, I can't right now. No.
But then you'll get to drive more than me.
All right.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Anna, can you and the boys go take the gator up? I'm gonna pull my phone out and I'm gonna walk up to the house. You gotta let Anna drive her island.
No.
Yeah. Oh.
No, then I'm riding in the back.
Okay. Fine. All right, let me pull the questions up on my phone. I can read with you. Maybe. And we'll answer some more as we walk up to the house, and then we'll be done here. So maybe if this works. I see myself, but I don't see any comments. Live chat right there. Live chat has moved right there. Okay. I have no idea where Anna left off, so we're just gonna jump in here somewhere. Did you check your soil pH and carbonate CO3 levels? We take soil consultant right now on their soybean ground and stuff. One of the things that I would like to try a little bit to help with some of this crusting, it's just we have a lot of clay in our soil, so it's not something we can get away from totally, but I've heard really good things about gypsum and flushing magnesium out, putting more calcium in the soil with a bigger particle size that allows more pore space and keeps things from crusting. So we're gonna We're gonna maybe experiment with that a little bit this fall and see. You can always tell it's the yellow clay knobs that we have the worst soil crusting issues, right? It's not the low ground, it's not the black ground, it's not the stuff that's got decent organic matter. It's the tough yellow clay knobs. And some of those are a lost cause, to be honest. But no, I have not done any carbonate testing. Found out that we are out of Dr. Pepper in the house. Oh, that's rough. You don't want that. Greetings from Austria. When you upgrade the bean planter, are you going to upgrade to an exact emerge like the corn planter? I really don't know. I asked Phil this question earlier this year. I said, so when it's time to upgrade planters, would you go wider or faster or both? And he didn't have a good answer either. It seems ridiculous and really hard to fathom spending $200,000 to go high speed, you know, just for that high speed upgrade on a planter. But that's what it costs. Or maybe you go to a 60-footer and do it a little faster that way. I don't really know. I mean, Phil did really good planting beans this year. We got a lot done early and he kept moving, and we finished beans the day after we finished corn this year. Now that said, I did plant almost 300 acres with the corn planter. So that shifts some of that workload from the 40-foot planter to the 60-foot high-speed planter, and maybe that's the answer. Maybe we stick with kind of what we've got and just do some 30-inch rows every year to get it done faster. I don't know. Listening to you is like taking master classes. I enjoy your talks. Well, thank you. There's a lot of rolling land after soybean planting in the thumb of Michigan. Do you roll your land? No, we don't. There's starting to be more and more of that around here. We've never done it. It's not super common around here. I get it, but it's mostly a harvest aid type of thing, and I don't think we do that bad of a job harvesting our beans, so I don't know how much it would pay off. And that's really what our VT tool was for, or is a big part of it, is to knock those corn stalk rows down so we don't have issues with them pushing on the bean head, and that they harvest so much nicer, and they do. And we pull that packer behind the disc to help knock the rocks down, and I don't know that a roller would help us much. Plus there's a bit of a time issue there. I know they have really big ones and you can go fast and do a lot in a hurry, but we're all really busy in the spring. Dad's spraying, he's doing tillage. Brock's here some doing tillage as much as possible, trying to stay ahead of the planters. I'm planting corn, Phil's planting beans. We don't have the time or the manpower for that. With RTK, can you run the 60-foot over the ground 2 times with a 15-inch offset? Yes, we could do that. I could double plant soybeans to get a 15-inch rows, half rate each time, if that was something that we wanted to do. I've seen people do it in the past. In my opinion, rolling makes compaction worse. Well, no, the rollers don't really make compaction worse because you're spread out over so much area. It really is not a high pounds per square foot. I don't think that's an issue. Still thinking of doing strip till in Berkey this fall? Yes, I'm still thinking about it. I gotta start actually actively looking for a strip till bar. What's the difference in yield between 15 and 30-inch rows? Totally depends on the year, the weather. A couple years ago we did some and I thought the 30-inch rows were 5 or 6 bushel worse. This year could be totally different. Planting date makes a big difference. There's lots of factors there, so I can't answer that one way or the other. I don't think, the earlier you plant them, I think there is less of a difference. You know, white mold could destroy 15-inch row beans and not touch 30s. There's just too many variables there. How about showing us the same plant without the starter fertilizer you showed us plant where you forgot? Yeah, I could do that, but they're a long ways away, so we're not going there today. Maybe in one of the actual videos, we'll do that this week sometime. With gypsum, you can't eliminate the soil hydrogen. What I was meaning, did you check potential acid amounts? I did not. In gypsum, it doesn't raise pH, which is the point. If you need to raise pH, you use high cal lime. It's a magnesium base saturation issue, I think, versus calcium base saturation. I think we need to have more calcium in our soil and less magnesium, personally. Okay guys, thanks for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. Hit the like button on the video for me. And we'll see you again tomorrow. We're gonna have to go do some more scouting after the rain, checking out some of these bean fields that were questionable, and checking out some of the one cornfield. There's one cornfield where I'm really concerned, and we need to do some evaluation and see if we can get it. That's tomorrow's plan. We'll see what else is going on. At some point, I have to help him move, and oh, we might start putting in hydroson. So yeah, if we don't have to replant, well, either way, we're either going to not replant and unhook the corn planter, or we're going to get the replant done and unhook the corn planter, get the anhydrous bar hooked up and ready to go. Plan maybe a Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, side dressing. That'll be exciting. So, all right, guys, how do I end this on my GoPro? Thanks everybody. GoPro app. Do I go to the GoPro app? Yep, right there. All right. Hope this worked all right. I hope you guys could all hear me all right and everything was good with the GoPro. We'll do some more agronomy live streams here. They're going to come more frequently. Obviously, it's been like 2 months since I did the last one. I don't know what the next critical timing is, but probably right when about the time that we start spraying some V5 fungicide, we'll do another agronomy live stream. If there is something specific you want to see in these videos or a topic you want me to cover, make sure you leave it in the comments. Hit me up on my website. Send me an email.